Hey guys, welcome back. We are doing 14 for phonics. So let's get busy. Okay, lesson 14. Our learning targets. I can identify the different spellings for the V sound. I can read and spell the tricky word picture, and I can ask and answer questions about the story, The Hike. So let's do a sound review. Let's review the V sound as in van, V, van, V, V, V. Now you repeat it. Good. Notice the power bar on there is a long power bar because this is a typical sound that we will spell with V, van. Now today we're going to review the V sound as in van. So repeat the V sound with me. V, V, V. Good. Now this is a consonant sound. So I'm going to say some word pairs. The words will be very similar, but one word will begin with the V sound, and another word will begin with the F sound. Close your eyes while I say these words, and then I will call on you to tell me the word with the V sound. Okay, so here we go. First set of words. Van, fan. What's the V word? Van, good. Number two, vat, fat. Vat is the V word, good. Our third one, vine and fine. What's your V word? Vine, good. Number four, views and fuse. What's your V word? Views, good. Number five, vain and feign. What's your V word? Vain, good. And your last one, vault and fault. What's your V word? Vault, great job. And here's our words, van and fan, vat and fat, vine and fine, views and fuse, vain and feign, vault and fault. So let's look at 14.1, which is this here. It's just a sheet with the two different spellings. We've got V as in van. Notice that power bar is a long power bar because it's a very common spelling. Van and vet, okay? Then we've got the V spelling spelled with V-E, and the power bar is not very long because it's not a very common spelling. It's spelled like 12, sleeve, and carve. All right, so let's look at 14.2. So on 14.2, you've got 8 words. You've got verbs, van, serve, river, 12, vote, never, and vet. So you are going to pick a word and complete the sentences, okay? So you have 8 sentences that you have to complete, all right, down to here. So let's look at number 1. Run and jump are what? Verbs. So your first answer should be verbs. So write verbs on that line and then make sure you mark it off, okay? Okay, so let's go back to our slides. Okay, so let's do a grammar check. You've learned about 3 different types of sentences. Statements. What's a statement do? It tells us something and it ends with a period. Then we've talked about questions. What do questions do? They ask, don't they? And they end with a question mark. Then we have exclamations. They show excitement, so they end with an exclamation mark. So a statement is a sentence that tells you something with a period. For example, I brush my teeth 3 times a day. The dog likes to play fetch. She lives on Main Street. My sister is in 3rd grade. Those are all statements because they're all telling you something and they all end with a period. Then a question is a sentence that asks something. Do you like to play soccer? Where did you go last summer? What is the name of your street? How old are you? Notice, they all end with a question mark and they all are asking you something. An exclamation is a sentence that has feelings like excitement. I love 1st grade. My classroom is the best. Kate had a lot of fun and I love cats so much. Those are all exclamation sentences because they end with an exciting mark because they show excitement. Now I want you to think of an example of these types of sentences. So tell me a sentence as a statement. She is my friend. It ends with a period because it is telling us something. A question sentence. Is it raining outside? That would be a question because it's asking you something. An exclamation. Wow, that was scary. That's an exclamation mark because it's showing excitement. All right, it says we're going to go on a hunt through Kate's book, but we're going to skip this page because we can't go back into each of the lessons, but we will look when we read our new story, okay? So we're going to skip that. Our tricky words. So remember, all year long, we're going to learn new tricky words. Tricky words are words that do not play by the rules. So let's learn a new tricky word. Our tricky word is picture. He took my picture with his new camera. Now, let's write the word picture on your board. All right, write picture on your whiteboard. Great. Now, I want you to circle the T-U-R-E because that's the tricky part of the word. Did you know that? Because the T-U-R and E stand for the C-H, ch, and E-R sound. Picture. So, but when you read this word picture, you have to remember to pronounce it with the letters T-U-R-E as ch-er. So our tricky word is picture. So you've copied that and you've circled the tricky part. Great job. All right, so now we're going to read the hike. So look at the table of contents. We'll look at that in a little bit to see which story comes after Jack's tale. What might the characters of today's story do based on the title? So look at our title right here. It's in this little oval up at the top. What's the name of our story? The Hike. So what do you think we're going to be doing today? Hiking. So the title of the story is called The Hike. Remember, it was on a hike with Nan that Kate discovered a Spanish coin. So let's look at some other 2-syllable words. We have morning, finished, biggest. Our consonant doublings, cliff, digging, running. Our tricky words, picture and wood. So let's preview some vocabulary. A bit is a short amount of time. Drifted off is carried away. Carve means to cut something away. So let's read to find out what happens on this hike. All right, the hike. The next morning, we went on a hike. After a bit, we stopped for lunch. When Max finished his lunch, he asked, "Can Kate and I look for rocks?" Jack said, "Okay." "Kate," Max said to me, "bring your fork. We can use it to dig up rocks." I grabbed my fork and we went off to look for rocks. There's Kate with 2 forks. Max pointed at a bump on the side of a cliff and said, "Let's dig that rock out." The rock did not look at all that large, but when we started digging, we soon saw that it was larger than it had seemed. After a bit, Max said, "Gee, it must be 2 feet long. We need to keep scratching in order to carve it out of the side of this cliff." We went on scratching with our forks. "Let's tug on it," Max said. "I bet we can get it out by ourselves." We grabbed and tugged it. It popped out, but so did a big cloud of sand and dust. Max and I fell down. Once the dust and sand had drifted off, I saw Max standing there with this thing in his hands. "It's not a rock," he yelled. "It's a bone." It was the biggest bone I'd ever seen. It was 3 feet long. Jack and Nan came running. "Goodness," said Nan, "that is one bone. Where did you get it?" Max pointed to the spot where we found it. Jack set the bone on the ground. Then he took a picture of the bone and said, "We need to get an expert to look at this bone and tell us what sort of bone it is." Okay. So let's go into our worksheet here. Number 1, when did Max and Kate dig up the bone? Okay, choose an answer. You don't have to write the page number. Number 2, what did Max and Kate use to dig out the bone? Remember, no page number. Number 3, how long was the bone? No page number. Number 4, you have to explain who needs to look at the bone to tell Max and Kate the sort of bone it is. And no page number there. Okay. So let's go back over here. Let me hide this so it stops showing. All right. So what does everyone do in the morning? They're going on a hike, aren't they? What do Max and Kate go look for after lunch? They're going to go look for rocks, right? Why do Mac and Kate take forks with them? To dig out the rocks, right? To scratch at them. How big was that bone they pulled out from the cliff? It was over 2 feet. Look at the picture on page 43. How do you think Kate and Max feel about their discovery? Well, let's go back to 43. See if we can find it here. There's the picture. How do you think they feel? Excited. How do you know? Look at the smiles on their faces, right? Okay. And number 6, what kind of bone do you think Kate and Max found? What does it look like? I thought it kind of looked like a tusk, but I could be wrong. I don't know. And then it says, let's look at 14.4. So if we go to 14.4, this is just a rereading of the campsite, okay? Just a rereading of the story. So that's the homework there, all right? Okay. And let's take us back into our learning targets. I can identify the different spellings for the V sound. I can read and spell the tricky word picture, and I can ask and answer questions about the story, The Hike. Now, before we leave here, I want us to go back into our story, and I want us to find some sentences with exciting marks, question marks, or statements. All right, so let's go back up here on this page. We'll start here on this page. Wow, do you see some exciting marks? Oh, I do. I see, let's dig that rock out. And then I see, gee, it must be 2 feet long. Do you see any statements? The rock did not look all that large. Do you see another one? We need to keep scratching in order to carve it out of the side of the cliff. That's another statement, isn't it? So let's see if we can find some questions. Oh, there's a question. Can Kate and I look for rocks? Good. Let's see if we can find another question. We just looked at that page, so we know that there's not any there. I don't see any questions there. I see some excitements, though. Oh, there's a question. Where did you get it? There's another question. Great job. All right. So hopefully when you start reading your stories that you'll start noticing those statements and questions and exclamation marks, okay? All right, my friends, that is the end of this lesson, and I will see you back here tomorrow. Bye, my friends.